welcome. This is Quick Take. I'm one of your hosts, Susie Tomachuk, along with my very good friend, James Capps. How are you,
I'm also
James?
one of your hosts. I'm fantastic. How about yourself?
We're co-hosts.
Co-hosts. It's two.
We're equally host too.
Ing. That's right.
Yes, hosting. All right. So we're going to talk about situational awareness is one of my favorite things, but we're going to talk specifically about email today. And I think this is a topic that doesn't come up enough, and I'll tell you why. I have a story for you, James. Do you want to hear
Do
my
tell.
story?
I love your stories.
Yeah. So this a client of mine, Lynn, because we're always my Lynn, right? Lynn.
Oh, that's right. About your
That's right.
your child running around your house. Yeah.
So creative.
Yep.
So Lynn and I were talking this week, and she's a VP at an organization, and she admitted that on a Friday afternoon, she sent kind of a crappy email to somebody that she was very frustrated with, that she doesn't trust, that she doesn't like in the organization. And what happened was that email was then forwarded on to her boss, that person's boss, and then that email became a meeting.
Oh, yeah. It's the worst.
It got bad. So email is really something that you can cover your butt on.
Sure.
You put that out there. Did you see the email? It can be passive aggressive. And thinking about email in the right way as an executive, you're teaching people. So I thought it'd be interesting. What do you think?
No, that's a great topic. And I think that as leaders and executives, we tend to be a little more polished or emotionally in tune to what's going on in a meeting, but that sometimes doesn't translate to email. And so as we continue to leverage email, and as you tend to have more critical communications with your teams, that knowing how to appropriately address the situation, see how things are being talked about, and just being aware of the general politics when you're communicating with email is just so important.
Yeah. So what are your best practices around email?
Yeah, I think that this is a no-brainer. Although I'm surprised how often people tend to forget this. Is if you've gone back and forth more than 3 times, it's a meeting, right?
Absolutely.
And when that conversation is clearly not getting resolved, there's more people being added. There's additional details. Maybe a corollary to that is when your email is longer than this, it's a meeting. And at the end of the day, there's nothing better than just the verbal dialogue. So, know the point at which that email should go to a meeting.
Absolutely. And for the people that are listening to us on podcast, this long is a screen.
That's right. That's right.
Screen. That's how long.
Because if you're scrolling through an email, you've already lost me unless it's a recap of some kind. But the reality is you probably should get everybody on the phone.
Yeah, and I love that you said 3 and then it's a meeting. So as an executive, you should call it. You should say, listen, this is this, and help people understand that, right?
Yeah, I think it's not only important for that situation to nip it in the bud, if you will, but also to state that as a standard. Hey guys, this has gone back more times than it probably should. As a rule, let's jump to a meeting at this point. Nothing else. It eliminates another 10,000 emails you're probably going to have on your inbox. But the truth is, as a leader, you can set the standard.
Yeah. Okay. That's a good one. What's your second one?
No, I really think the second one that a lot of folks miss is really be aware of who's on the distribution list.
Yeah.
I've never hit send without rereading who's on that distro list. And as a leader, you can show a lot of authority, thinking, and intelligence by adjusting the distribution list mid-thread.
Yeah.
There's nothing more powerful than saying, hey, what folks, I'm decreasing this distro list to only the people that need to be involved. Or, what I love to do more than anything is I remove my boss from a thread that he doesn't need to be involved in.
Yep.
I think one of the classiest email tricks out there is when you move somebody from the to or the CC line, move them to the BCC line, and then put in the body of the email, dropping Carl to the BCC out of respect to his inbox, because then they'll get the final email that says that they've been removed. And if they don't need to be there, they don't need to be there. And that shows as a leader that you're controlling the narrative, you're limiting the amount of chaos that comes from that, and you're focusing the conversation right where you want it.
Yeah, and I love calling out the BCC.
You have to do that. Otherwise,
Hmm.
it's snarky.
Yep.
Whenever I adjust the distro list, whether add or subtract, I always put that in the body so people are fully aware. But it is leadership. It is saying, it's no different than reaching down the hall and grabbing somebody to a meeting, or saying, hey, you know what, folks, you all don't need to be in this room right now. Why don't you go back to your desks or whatever. It's really about you showing the maturity and the leadership to say who needs to be part of this conversation.
Yeah, I love that so much, and it just brought me back to the days when this was talked about more. I remember
Yeah.
my boss telling me that the copy line, the CC line, should go by hierarchy. It should
Oh,
go, and so it's so
sure.
funny that back in years ago when email was becoming a standard,
Mm.
we were really thoughtful about it, and now we've become, it's like such a passive way that there's no rules. I feel like we've lost the rules.
I agree with you. I think it is more of a casual communication style, and you can do. There's a spectrum of starting an email with "Dear somebody," and signing an email with "from" or "love" or "sincerely." I mean, that is on one side of that crazy spectrum, and then there's the other side of that spectrum, which is a text message, which is no vowels and just a few emojis. So you have to be aware of the medium, and be aware of the context. And I think that's really a great third bullet or third point of view is know and be aware of who you're communicating with and what style you should be using.
Yeah.
Full sentences and grammar matter in some
Yeah.
communications. Um, and so I think it's important that people remember that.
Yeah. So what you're saying is being thoughtful about how you place your, I like to tell people too, do like an executive summary with some additional information below if it's an informational, or
Mm-hmm.
put something, put some action or give some expectations about what you want from this.
Well, I think emails, and that's just good email policy, and I think we could do a whole thing on email, you know standards. But emails should be more like articles. You don't want to bury the lead. You get to the point right away,
Yeah.
and then you provide the details. If you're finding that there's a long narrative and then the punchline, you're not going to really, the readers aren't going to appreciate that. So there are a lot of rules to make sure that the emails are consumed correctly and well received. But I think from a situational awareness, it's so important that you keep in mind how that email will be received, and then where it will go after.
Yeah.
Just like anything else on the internet, emails can live forever, and snarky comments,
Yeah.
weird references to previous jokes, all will it can be misconstrued. And so I think when you talk, when you really want to put an email together, you should be thoughtful about what that looks like.
Yeah, and one thing that I think is a good practice around that is writing the email, stepping
And
away,
walking away.
coming
Yeah.
back and reading it again so that you can take out those things. It gives you the pleasure of putting them in, and then
Exactly right.
then you edit yourself. Be like, okay.
Yep. Well, I
So,
find that when I write an email, a quick email, I tend not to use full sentences, and I'll
hmm,
use just I won't use really a noun up front, and it'll just be poorly structured sentences, and then I'll crank that out in like 5 seconds, and then I'll go back and proofread it, and I'm like, well, that doesn't even make any sense.
yes, I do that
I
too.
just wrote that 5 seconds ago, and I already don't understand what I was saying. So
Yeah.
there is a reality of all right, taking a break, go back and proofread, take it, have a sandwich, whatever it requires you. Especially if you are, if there's some passion and energy going on to your earlier story, you need to be thoughtful. So, I mean, maybe that's a fourth takeaway around situational awareness is
Bonus.
bonus. Yeah, we need the bonus button there. I don't have a sound effect yet. But is make sure you are aware of the situation, and knowing your be aware of your emotional situation, and take a break.
Awesome. Awesome. Okay. Can you give us the three
I
again?
can I
You
can I
remember
can bring
them?
those together, and then we'll have the bonus. So first, really, if it's longer than the screen, or it's back and forth more than 3 times,
Yep.
it should be an email. Just
Length.
to be aware of that, the how that's going to be read and understood by your audience. Secondly, always be aware of who's in the distribution list, who's on the who's on the CC, who might have gotten added. And as a leader, take control of that narrative and maybe eliminate some of those folks, move people to BCC if you can, control who is getting that message. And then the third is be aware of who the audience, of your audience, and how that email is going to be used later on. So using appropriate grammar, less snark, less irony, and I think sarcasm. Those are tough in email, especially 6 months later. When you reread that email, you may not remember the joke that was made in the meeting 10 minutes beforehand. And so be aware of that, of how that is. And then
Awesome.
obviously our bonus, always take a break. If you're charged up, write the email. That's fine. It's cathartic. Just don't hit send.
Yeah. Yeah. And you just reiterated too that it lives forever. And
Yeah.
so be careful what you
Yeah.
put out
Yeah.
there.
Yeah. I mean, with my company and a lot of larger companies, we have a retention policy where they do get
Yeah.
deleted.
Thank
But I know
goodness.
smaller companies that you may have sent that email to. They'll keep that forever. I know I don't. I don't delete anything. I just I'm a digital pack rat, and so yeah, those things will live forever. And I think that's a really important thing to recall.
Excellent. I think this was a good one. I think
Good
a lot of
topics.
people will be
Yep.
like, oh my gosh, I do that all the time. I need to stop doing that.
Yep. Yep. These are classics.
Classic. All right. Thank you, James. Thank you for being here. Quick Stirs. We appreciate you. James and I are both on LinkedIn. We would love it if you followed us. And if you have any questions or you want to connect with us, please do. We'd
Yep.
love to
Drop
hear
us a
from
note.
you. Yeah, drop us a note. So thanks for being here. Until next time, James, we'll see you next time because I
See you.
appreciate you.
And we appreciate you.